Welcome along, one and all, to the ninth and final round of PSGL Season 39 PSF3, brought to you by GT Omega. We've had a bit of a rollercoaster of emotions throughout the week, but in the end we head to this climactic race at the As Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi with a nail-biting title showdown in prospect. With the Drivers' Championship set out as a showdown between Nico and Zinedine Hajjaj, the Constructors' Championship set with a margin of just one single point between Haas and VCarb. Mercedes not out of that picture either, and we have an entire grid of ultra talented drivers, some jumping up for PSF4 to tonight, all chasing a top result in the final race of F1 24 for PSF3. My goodness. And of course, to take you through all the action here tonight, it is myself, Daka, and alongside me, as always, is someone I can say I am glad to have shared the box with dozens of times on this game. It is, of course, Ghost. How are you this evening?
Oh, the feeling's mutual, Daka. It's been a great season and fantastic to share the box with you for another season, and I hope more seasons to come. I've just been watching Zinedine Hajjaj take out every single bollard and corner meter marker on his outlap that he possibly can, which is interesting. But he's about to come through the final corner to start his first lap of the session. We have a title showdown tonight, and we'll take you through the points in a second. But first of all, let's ride on board with a lap with Zinedine Hajjaj of the Abu Dhabi circuits. He heads through turn one. Never mind, we don't ride on board with Zinedine Hajjaj because he's into the wall straight away on the exit of turn one. So I'll switch to Lars van der Linden instead as he comes through turn 5, Daka.
Out of turn 5, straightening up and getting onto that throttle pedal. My goodness, well, I think at the very least Zinedine Hajjaj will be relieved that he is not out of the session on the spot from that, and still has a chance to fight on later on. We're watching Lars though on to the brakes, down into the chicane of turn 6 and 7. Expect a lot of wheel-to-wheel racing throughout this section, and also so crucial to get on that throttle pedal smoothly on the exit, opening up the DRS yet again towards the end of the second sector at turn number 9. Big action zone on the track as well, flicking it in, turning in a little bit early and trying to hold a tight line all the way throughout this continuous long range left-hander at turn 9. Now heading up through turn 11 and in a tough braking zone at turn 12, locking up that right front just a little bit. Then it's just balancing that throttle pedal all the way through turns 13 and 14, straightening up the car once again, flat out through turn 15. This entire last sector, of course, reprofiled in the last couple of years. To the last corner, takes out that bollard over on the inside and gets this session kicked off with a 1:22.3, and I think it is the championship protagonist Nico who goes significantly faster than a 1:21.5 this early in the session. My goodness, what a statement to make. Look at the gap between himself and the rest. PLX, of course, who looked like a championship contender throughout the majority of the season, sits third in the standings, goes just about a quarter of a second slower. But Nico, I was predicting the pole to be around about a mid-21, and he is already through on a 21.5. This man is on a mission.
He absolutely is. What a statement to make to the rest of the grid to set a banker lap like that. And, well, if he's got more in the tank, I'd love to see it, because that is an astonishing opening lap from Nico, especially a hammer blow to Zinedine Hajjaj, who crashed earlier on. Of course, the points gap between them is just 4 points. Hajjaj has led the standings all season long, and finally, for the first time of the season, lost the championship lead last week with a disconnect as Nico went on to win a thrilling Mexican Grand Prix. And he now leads by 4 points, does Nico. And, well, if he can get pole position here, it'll be 5 points, and that'll be an even bigger gap. He will always win on countback if they finish level on points. So it is important for Hajjaj that Nico doesn't get pole, and ideally if he can get pole himself, because then he doesn't have to worry about countback if they finish first and second. But at the moment, it is Nico on that top spot, and it's going to take some beating that lap. Mattia Manga's bashed off just about every single wall on his opening lap, and he heads straight back into the pits, unsurprisingly. But yeah, the closest out there is Mathieu, who's been flying high as well this season. He's been very strong, but a bit of bad luck in the second half of the season, I think, has put paid to his championship hopes. and PLX a couple of absences on his side. So it's those top three who've been the usual suspects towards the top of the grid this season, but we're still waiting on Hajjaj to put in a lap. Let's see what he can do. He's on an out lap at the moment, and he'll be hoping not to crash again at turn one. He might take it a little more cautiously this time as a result.
For what it's worth, just as a quick mention, we were not sure whether Zinedine Hajjaj would turn up to this race. He indicated immediately after the Mexican Grand Prix, where he of course had a very costly disconnection, that he wouldn't be showing up tonight because of wheel issues. Well, he has elected just today that he wants to turn up for this race and contest this championship. So let's see what he has got as he kicks off this flying lap. And he has seen the marker that his championship rival has put down. This needs to be good for Zinedine Hajjaj as he flicks it into turn one. Watch the traction on the exit, keeps it in fifth gear and tries to maintain that stability. That's fairly calm throughout the first sector, keeping it nicely and under control towards that turn 5 and that critical braking zone. 17.3 through the first sector is solid enough as he locks up heavily on that left front tyre, still managing to get a very nice exit though, using the absolute maximum width of the track and getting DRS open once again for a kilometre long blast down towards the turn 6 chicane. You can see him going right out onto that curb. You can brake on it just fine. He goes in a third gear, flicking the car in that very aggressive steering motion you see all the drivers using on this game, opening up DRS for the second time on the lap, and away he goes towards the end of that middle sector. He needs to be in the low 52s at the very least. It's a 52.3, that's good enough. That should put him right in the mix. What's the last sector going to be like? There is no hint of a correction on that wheel. This is a very clean and composed lap from the long-term championship leader. He takes a lot of curb around turn number 12. That was a very nice line then too on the inside, navigating the rest of these corners in this last sector with barely a hint of an error. It's been an extraordinarily clean lap from Zinedine, and this will really be an indicator of where he is at up towards the line. It's a 1:21.9, and I have to say, Ghost, that lap looked fairly optimised, so that just goes to show how impressive that was from Nico. But IRT Nick draws much closer. A strong lap too from the Williams at 21.6.
Yeah, that looked a very composed and clean lap from Zinedine Hajjaj. I'm surprised it was so far off, but maybe it looked calm and composed because he wasn't pushing it all that much. So we'll see what he can do as the session wears on. Still 10 minutes to go to set another few laps. PLX is one of the drivers on a lap at the moment as well. Through Sector 1, he is half a tenth up. Of course, Sector 1 is essentially one corner, the rest is flat, but the middle sector is really going to show what PLX is capable of, and then the final sector. I think there's a real sector imbalance on this track, really. The first sector is one braking zone, the second sector is two braking zones, and then the third, I mean, you can see it on the mini-map. There's quite a few more. But PLX on the straight now towards turn 9, and to that sector line he goes. What's it going to be for the Aston Martin driver? Can he challenge Nico for pole? He's still only about half a tenth up, so it's all about this final sector, whether he can find a huge amount of time. Nico's on a lap as well, but he's invalidated, so I'll stay on board with PLX as he takes us through the final few corners of the circuit, through the hotel section, and last couple of corners to go. Very tricky double left-hander that to get on the power and not spin it, especially on the exit, the final one, and he's into the pits. Not happy, PLX, as that was Swifty going to P6 on debut, and I think that was Lars van der Linden to P5 as more drivers come across the line.
Yeah, more and more drivers getting into the 121s as well. And yeah, just watching PLX as well, that was a very error-strewn lap, so I don't think it was finding much improvement. Sam Van Marison goes to P3, and very critically, of course, VCarb are locked in battle for the Constructors' fight. They do come into this round with the odds-on advantage, especially as ARSRT Geppo is unfortunately unable to make this race. That gives them a huge upper hand. They have a points margin on Mercedes too, who are also mathematically in contention, but currently 1 and 3 in the session. These guys, I mean, we've seen throughout the season, they could both hook up a very stellar qualifying lap, and for Sam Van Marison to be up there too, that makes the proposition for, well, everyone who isn't VCarb much more challenging in the race to come. You just mentioned Swifty getting up there into P8. There are 3 drivers, just like we saw in Mexico, coming up from F4, which is sadly also got cancelled due to low numbers. So Swifty is one of those drivers. Enelart Luca, who is reserving in that McLaren, is my controls are bugging out. Hopefully that's not going to manifest too much. Luca also in the McLaren, and then you have Tropic in the Kick Sauber. So, I mean, we saw those debutants last time out in Mexico, and I think for the entire time we have been commentating on PSF3, debutants have been putting in incredible performances, making their presence felt early. So keep an eye on these three drivers as well. Of course, they're not fighting for much, and we do have a championship on the line, but it's worth keeping an eye on to see if we have more debut stars like we've seen in the last few seasons throughout our time covering PSF3.
Yeah, absolutely. One of those debutants could have cost Nico a huge chunk of points if he'd managed to beat him to the win last week in Mexico, but Nico fended him off after a thrilling race. Mateusz goes to P3 in the meantime, but still no one even within a tenth of Nico's lap time. We're so used to seeing in PSF3 the battles for pole being well within a tenth between several drivers, but not today. Nico looks in a class of his own at the moment, and need I remind you, that was his banker lap. So we'll see if he can improve on it. He's on an outlap at the moment and ready to go again after invalidating his second attempt. But Mattia Manga in the Red Bull as well. Very error-strewn opening lap, and he actually abandoned it so in the pit. So he's got to go again as the ever-improving Red Bull driver. We thought he might be a championship contender this season, and he was for a large part of it, but trailed off with a few disappointing results towards the end of the season and ended up outside of that championship fight. So he'll be hoping to finish the season strong, just like he did last season, if we remember. Obviously, this is the last season on this game, so the momentum won't carry quite as much, I don't think, into a new game, a new handling model and everything, which I'm very excited for. But Mattia Manga 52.3 in the middle sector. That's not bad at all from the Red Bull. That's about on par with what Zinedine Hajjaj was doing. So if he can get the final sector a little better than the Haas driver, then Mattia Manga will be right up there, nearly invalidating there. That was so close going into turn 12. But he comes to the last couple of corners now. It's looking like a decent lap for Mattia Manga, certainly much better than last time. No, it's not at all, because he comes straight into the pits again. And we see this from him a lot, don't we, Daka? He just, if he's not completely happy with the lap, he just goes off and abandons it. Which I don't really understand. There's plenty of time left in the session, but whatever works for him. As Nico comes around the final corner, improving slightly, but a huge slide of the rear is going to lose him all of that time as he comes across the line. And Zinedine Hajjaj gets close. He's up to P3, but he's still no one within a tenth.
It's extraordinary, that lap from Nico again. I thought that would be around about where the pole time would be. No one able to challenge it just yet, but they are drawing closer. PLX goes up into position number 2. And look at that! ET8 NASCAR coming right to the fore and snatches away that provisional pole time. I said they were getting closer, but I tell you what, I did not see that one coming. NASCAR, a driver who only has 1 points finish throughout the season, putting in a stellar lap here with just 4 minutes and a half to go in the session, and does in the end topple that seemingly invincible time of OVR Nico. Welcome to the fray, NASCAR. That certainly, I mean, we've seen this driver. He does, in certain conditions, he does have that ability to pull out great laps, have a great deal of pace, but throwing himself right into the mix and a bit of a spanner into the works of the relentless dominance of OVR Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. Be careful, NASCAR. I was in the middle of a sip of water there. I nearly spat it out when that pole time came up on the screen. Swifty comes into the pits. He's not happy with that attempt. So another one for him as 3.5 minutes left in this session. We're coming into the closing stages. Zinedine Hajjaj still down in P5, but we've seen him so many times this season recover from subpar positions, whether it be from qualifying itself or from just some misfortune in the race. But today he looks a little bit down in terms of pace than we're used to seeing him. We're very used to seeing him challenging for pole, but he doesn't seem to be up there today. But he will be very grateful, I'm sure, to ET8 NASCAR for taking that pole position point off of Nico if that does end up finishing this way. Tropic coming through as well, one of the PSF4 debutants as he comes into the pits. So again, no improvement from him. And yeah, you'll see a lot of that, by the way. There's a bit of a bug on this track where when you come into the pits, sometimes it'll give you a track limits warning. So we do have to keep an eye on that somewhat during the race, because I think track limits might well come into play. It's not it's not a particularly track limits heavy track, but it can absolutely happen. I'm sure we will see penalties today, so just keep an eye on that and keep that in mind in case it comes into play. But no one really on a lap at the moment. Devil has backed off, so I think it's Lars van der Linden, the only one on a lap right now.
Yeah, the Kicksauer's just got one started off, and we are just 2 minutes from the end of the session, so these laps now are going to be crucial. We are right at the critical moment in this qualifying session, so keeping an eye on Lars van der Linden, who always seems to be the first car out on track in these qualifying sessions. I have to say, a great strategy if he wants to get screen time, which he does get plenty of in these qualifying sessions, as he heads down the back straight towards turn 6 and getting himself on to that brake pedal down into third gear. Takes a lot of curb on the inside of turn 6, tries to open up turn 7, straightens up that car early, you see, to get as much traction as he possibly can. Now it is that run up towards the end of the second sector. We'll see what the second sector time is looking like. It's a 52.3 and a low 52.3 at that, so that's looking very, very competitive. Can he hook this last sector up? It has certainly tripped up a number of drivers throughout tonight. So difficult to hook it up at the end of the lap as you're already deep into it, but he carries a lot of apex speed there around turn 12, managing to keep the rear just about in check through 13 and 14, still nicely on his way. He does have 700s to make up on the next highest car. After that, they do bunch up a little bit more, so let's see what Lars van der Linden can pull out here. He does go up into position number 6, just behind Zinedine Hajjaj, just in front of Yves Mathieu. That's the first run in at the end of the session, but they're about to come in thick and fast.
Yeah, Sam van Marasing, no lap from him, no improvement. So the other VCARB driver down in P8. We haven't seen much team orders from the VCARBs this season, if at all. So I was wondering if Sam van Marasing was up there, whether we'd see some, because obviously Nico is in the running for the championship. But, well, we may not get that answer with Sam van Marasing that far down. We've got several more coming in. Nico starting his lap. He's invalidated. Nico invalidates at the final corner on his out lap. So there's no lap coming in from Nico. He will stay P2 at best. NASCAR improving in the first sector, but only by 100th. PLX half a tenth up. See what he can do. He's been so strong in qualifying all season. Zinedine Hajjaj through sector 1 he goes. He is a 10th down. The former championship leader. The pressure is on for Zinedine Hajjaj, and he is not meeting it in this qualifying session at the moment. The time runs out. Nico, obviously, nothing for him. PLX all the way off the track at turn 7, and he invalidates as well. So nothing from him either. NASCAR not improving as well in the middle sector. And IRT Nick might be one of the ones in the running here. He comes through the final corner, nearly a 10th up. Can he get pole? No, it's P3. He stays down behind the top 2 as more and more cars come through the final sector, Daka.
My goodness, so many mistakes amongst the top drivers in this session. You can see Nick taking advantage. The door was wide open to do it, and he has grabbed that opportunity with both hands. It looks as though NASCAR, who did invalidate, he may just hold on to this pole position, but we'll see who else is going to step up. There's Videk is around the final corner. He's invalid though. Nico, of course, was invalidated further around the lap in the end, so further back, it's the Haas Zinedine Hajjaj. He was way down on the first 2 sectors. A stunning final sector.
Wow.
Manages to capture a lot of that back and get himself up into position number 5. Swifty in the Alpine around that final corner, runs way off the track, and that is going to do it. Matisse just in front of him too. I think still way outside of the top 10. So in the end, a very nervy qualifying session from so many of these drivers. Will clear up the results. So it was in the end a very surprising pole position from ET8 NASCAR, with Nico hanging on to that second place, but after an incredible banker lap, you would think he had so much more in the tank. Nick, fantastic lap to get him to third place. PLX joins him on that second road. Zinedine Hajjar's damage limitation session is a messy session from him, but he gets 5th from Mathieu P6, then Lars, Sam van Marsing, Ruben and Napel rounded at the top 10. Then after that you have Swifty, Luca, Devil, Zvideg, Matisse, Mattia Manga, Tropic and Sieb rounding out the grid. So That brings the qualifying session to an end, and well, you may say advantage Nico after that one. I think that the overwhelming emotion for him may be somewhat of relief that he didn't get that his time didn't get toppled, but frustration because that looked like a pole that was there for the taking.
It did. NASCAR came out of absolutely nowhere. I don't think anyone would have really been expecting him to be up there. Maybe he did. Maybe this is one of his favorite tracks. Who knows? But he came really out the woodwork and snatched that pole position point away from Nico. And how important could that end up being? Well, you have to wonder. But Zinedine Hadjaj is going to be very frustrated and very disappointed because we saw how far down he was in sector 2. It was well over a tenth down in that middle sector, and then he brought it all back in the final sector to improve nonetheless and get himself up a few positions, and he ended up only a tenth and a half off of pole. So you have to wonder if he hadn't have made those mistakes in the first two sectors and he nailed it with the third, he could have been on pole in that session as well. So yeah, like you said, damage limitation, but he will almost certainly feel it could have been so much more, and he could have gotten that all-important pole position point to make sure that if it does end up Zinedine Hadjaj P1 and Nico P2, he doesn't lose the title on countback. But as it stands, that is exactly what would happen.
Yes, so that does mean he is relying on Nico to have some kind of misfortune or mistake. So as it stands, he does have plenty of work to do. But one thing we can say over both himself and Nico throughout this season, they have both been comeback kings. So they can certainly move their way back through the order. And as for Nico, well, we saw, for example, in Singapore, he had an incredible recovery drive from a lowly grid. Actually, no, never mind. I think he was second on the grid. Maybe I'm getting that mixed up. But he is a driver that has incredible race pace. I mean, we saw that in Singapore, we saw that in Spa, and of course in the last round in Mexico. He is incredibly fast over a race distance, perhaps the fastest in the entire tier. I mean, he has gotten to this point 3 wins this season without getting a single pole position. He's a great qualifier too, but throughout this season, it's in the race when he's had a clear run of it where he has set himself apart. So he'll be frustrated to lose out on that pole position point, but I still think he goes into this race in an excellent position.
He absolutely does. He just has to keep it relatively mistake free. And he will be right up there. And well, the title is his for the taking. Zinedine Hadjaj is going to have to pull off, you would think, a race win at the very least, top 2, top 3, with the way the PSGL point system is, in order to have a chance at the title. Unless, of course, something horrible happens to Nico. We do have a near full grid today, so. If Nico does fall down the grid, he's going to have a tough time getting back into the points, and that could be the opportunity that Hadjaj needs. But all the cars around them have absolutely no obligation to just let them go and give them as wide a berth as possible. Some might not want to be that guy who takes out the championship protagonist, but I don't think any of these, any really of these drivers, maybe a couple, but there's going to be very few who are willing to give such an advantage. They're going to want to get the best result they can. They don't really care who wins the title because it's not going to be them. They're just going to want to maximize their result and finish off F124 with a flourish, because of course this is the last race for PSGL PSF3 on this game. So there's a lot of pressure to get it right, and to finish the game on a high and go into the new game cycle with that motivation in mind. But end of a season, it's always these kind of mind games going around, and no one is going to be under as much pressure as our two championship protagonists, Zinedine Hadjaj and Nico. Anything can happen in this race. It really, really can.
And, I mean, just on your point about the other drivers and how they're going to approach this, look at their motivations. ET8 NASCAR is a driver who hasn't finished higher than P8 throughout this season, and he starts this race from pole position. IRT Nick is a driver whose PSF3 career is littered with near misses. A driver who I think is going to be going all in at the front. EVE PLX, a driver who could well have been in this title fight himself had a couple of things had went differently. And, who else we got? EVE Mateusz, a driver who has gotten 3 podiums and sits fourth in the championship, still doesn't have a race win. He's going to be chasing that. So I don't see any reason for the rest of these drivers to be backing down just because there is a big title fight going on. I think they are going to be fighting all tooth and nail, and I can't wait to see what happens. But that is coming up very, very soon. Just before we get things back underway, though, a quick mention for our sponsor, GT Omega. As always, a link to their site is down in the video description, and if you want to purchase anything from their site, you can use the code PSGL at checkout for a 5% discount on all GT Omega products. Make sure to have a look at that. Well, we now look forward to the race. I've already mentioned how motivated a lot of these drivers may be ahead of this race as we head into it. We've had so much rain throughout this season. Somehow I doubt that's going to be the case here at Abu Dhabi, but you never know. We will get ourselves into this climactic race of the season, and as you said, Ghost, the possibilities are endless.
Absolutely, yeah. There's so much riding on this, the last championship of the game, and both Nico and Hajjaj are going to be highly motivated for it, no matter what Hajjaj said over the last week in the Discord. Yeah, you can say what you like off the track, but as soon as you get on the track, all of these guys will forget about all of that, and all they'll want to do is win the race and win the title in the context of those two. The constructors also on. Don't forget, if Sam Van Marasing has a poor race and finishes out the points, which we've seen happen to him a few times this season already, he has the potential to be up there, but already in qualifying he didn't look particularly strong, so we'll see what he's capable of. But if Hajjaj does win this race with Nico P2, he will, and Sam Van Marasing is out the points, he will at least have the solace of getting the Constructors' Championship, even if he misses out on the Drivers agonizingly on countback. So many possibilities. I'll be keeping an eye on the points while Daka is very vigilant on the cameras as always, and I'll make sure that we don't miss out on any championship implications in terms of positions and points wherever possible. So we'll update you as the race goes on, but we're about to get going.
Here we go now for the final race of F124 PSF3. We have 5 lights. And the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is go. NASCAR leads them away from the line, squirming with the rear tyres. It's a great start from Nico, and he takes the lead away. Going into the first corner critically, he is at the head of the pack as the rest of them navigate throughout this first sector. Hajjaj is off the road. Hajjaj onto the wall. Oh my goodness! The championship contender, the long-time championship leader, agonizingly just one corner into the race, has sent flying off the road. It just happened in the edge of my camera. I did not quite catch it, but Zinedine Hajjaj, oh how painful for all of us watching, and of course for the man himself. Zinedine Hajjaj, who went into this race chasing a championship, has gone, I saw his car spear off, but he has gone into the wall and out. Oh my goodness. Oh, it was in a way inevitable that this incredible championship fight would somehow evaporate very early on. You do have to feel for Zinedine Hajjaj. Safety car out, and well, virtually by default, we can declare OVR Nico is our PSF3 champion for season 39. My goodness, Ghost. Almost predictable in a sense, but my goodness, I'm lost for words at the moment. Wow.
Well, Nico will want to cap off this season with yet another win. So it's not over yet, but, well, in terms of his race, of course, but in terms of the championship, that is absolutely over. No one can mathematically catch him that is still racing. And that is OVR Nico, PSF3 champion for season 39. What a season it's been for him. We'll talk more about it at the end of the race, of course. Well, we do have a safety car, so we can go into it a little bit. I was riding on board with Zinedine Hadjaj as he went through turn 2. So he was side by side with, I think it was Mateusz going through turn 1, and Hadjaj was on the outside. And heading towards turn 2, I think when they went through that second corner, I think it was Mateusz just got on the curb maybe and just lost the rear and sideswiped Hadjaj, and Hadjaj speared off into the wall. I couldn't quite see exactly what happened, so don't quote me on that. Because I was only riding on board with Hadjaj in TV pod camera, so I didn't manage to see exactly what happened, but and it all happened so fast as well. But yeah, whatever happened, Hadjaj out of this race is a tragedy for the neutrals. But it is a blessing for OVR Nico. He now basically has 28 victory laps ahead of him.
And wow, what a situation to be in. He can, well, I imagine under the safety car savor what he has just achieved. And yeah, he has, for all intents and purposes, nothing to lose in this race. He can just go for it. And well, what a position to be in. He is just racing free all the way throughout tonight. Of course, there could be other implications in the standings as well. For example, if EVPLX manages to win this race, he may actually jump up into second in the standings. We'll see how that goes. He's running fourth on a bit of an alternate strategy from the rest. This is a track, of course, we didn't get a chance to discuss it much before the race, but this is a track where strategy, you can go either way, either medium hard or hard medium, and I was expecting more hard starters, to be honest, but PLX is the highest of those, currently running in position number 4, so his progress in these opening laps is going to be very, very interesting to behold, as well, we don't have to focus on the Drivers' Championship, we do focus on the race itself and the Constructors' Championship as well. Seab retires from the race as well in the pit lane, so brings his evening to a close, bizarrely, just 2 laps into the race. But yeah, EVPLX I think is going to be a driver to watch. They're up there on those hard tyres, and well, the mediums do last quite a while around this track, so we'll see how PLX is able to measure up to them on that hard tyre and trying to stay out longer.
Yeah, absolutely. We can also, by the way, declare... well, we can't quite declare it, actually, because Mercedes is still in it, aren't they? But VCARB have a much larger chance of securing the Constructors as well. It's a 17-point gap to Mercedes, so it would need a total disaster for the VCARBs and for Zviadek to get way further up the grid than he currently is for that to change. But yeah, it's still theoretically on, and anything can happen now. It's, you know, Nico, like you said, has got not really too much to lose in terms of championships. He's got nothing to lose in the drivers, but of course that constructor's still on, so he's got to... I don't know if he'll be thinking about that, but the safety car is going to be in this lap, and we're going to get back to green flags, and it's going to be Nico who leads us off. But yeah, what a tragic start to this season finale it's been, but I'm sure we're still going to get a fantastic race as pole sitter NASCAR. And we didn't talk much about it, but he got jumped completely at the start. Nico with an ungodly start off the line, just instantly a car's length ahead of the pole sitter going into turn 1, and he was all too happy to take that first place off of him. So we're about to get going again, Daka. Safety car peels into the pits, and Nico's gone early. He's caught NASCAR sleeping as they head towards the last few corners.
Immediately, as the safety car goes into the pit lane, Nico steps on it and gets separation away from ET8 NASCAR. So he leads the way comfortably as he heads over the line to start lap 4 of this race, and we will finally get solid green flag running, you would think. Swifty is going in at the back of the field, interestingly enough, the Alpine driver who's gone on to, well, he was on a set of new hard tyres, puts on another set of hards.
Sviatek in the wall.
Sviatek's gone off, and we have a VSC come out. So the Mercedes driver is missing a front wing, didn't catch that at all, and Mercedes slim constructors' hopes get even slimmer at that from TGS Sviatek. He emerges and he's going to have to come in again. He'll be hoping that VSC lasts an awful long time. But down in 15th, the rest of the grid having a fairly undramatic restart with Nico still leading the way. And of course, gaps can open up under VSC, so all these drivers are going to have to be alert. But didn't quite catch that from Sviatek. But yeah, for Mercedes, who are already up against it in the constructors, that is the last thing they needed.
Yeah, it really, really is. And, well, we've had a grand total of 4 corners of green flags so far. I'm sure that is going to be the last major VSC for quite a while. Although, you know, we thought that safety car restart was going to be as clean as it was. But no, not this time. It's, you know, just championship finale things, I think. These things just happen. It just tend to happen in these races. But Nico now heading through the last couple of corners. We still have the VSC out. No indication of green flags. He's not really accelerating too much yet. As there we go, green flags now at the final corner as Lars van der Linden into the pits straight away off of those hard tyres. I don't know if there's damage to the Kick Sauber driver, but Nico's gotten a good restart here off the VSC, and I'll keep an eye on Lars. Is he heading in for a new front wing, I wonder? Yes, he is. So that will explain that pit stop, and Sviatek also in for the same reason as the rest of the drivers head towards turn 5 for the 5th time, and this time we reach turn 5 under green flags, thank goodness.
Longest stint of the race, and these guys all running at full chat. We'll see if it does extend, as these guys already have DRS open. NASCAR tucking in behind Nico, but not showing interest in a move just yet. They all just kind of fall into line as they head out of turn number 7, and the DRS open yet again. You can see the entire field running in formation. EV PLX on the hard tyre still holding up there as we have racing further back. Look, a blast past Napple on the straight, and the Ferrari drivers lost an awful lot of momentum behind Matisse and Devil. You can see the other hard starters struggling as they head around turn 9 in that mid pack. Round the outside goes Mattia Manga on Tropic in that Kick Sauber, the F4 driver, and he does get through into P12, trying to make use of his hard tyres as he runs right into Devil, and they make contact reminiscent of what we saw in the F1 Esports finale. But they do manage to get themselves back in line. Devil, though, that separation has been created to the drivers in front, and he's defending the inside lane into the final corner, bizarrely enough. He seems to have no pace out there, does the McLaren, and he's holding up Mattia Manga massively as they head up towards turn 1. Mattia Manga's not going to have any way through there, and a rather bizarre start to the race continues as gaps are formed, fractures occur in the entire field. So we have 7 drivers clear at the front of the race, now led by ET8 NASCAR ahead of OVR Nico. Those two look to be able to swap places fairly calmly as they do so again down the back straight. So they're running nice and calm at the back of the track, at the front of the field, I should say. But down the back of the field, it's hard to describe what's going on as they're nearly running 3 wide down towards turn number 7 with Mattia Manga and Devil on the brakes. Devil, again, seemingly really struggling for pace out there for whatever reason, and Mattia Manga does get through at least at first, but now he does not have the DRS, and the counter is going to come from the McLaren, who sweeps the long way round and is going to take away that possession unless Mattia can get back in front. He looks back to the outside of turn 9, but there's nothing doing there. Devil does hold that one off, and now he nearly goes out of line. There's more contact between them heading into turns 10 and 11. I'm very confused, it must be said, by Devil's driving, and this battle between him and Mattia Manga. They're going side by side into turn 14. There's more contact. Mattia Manga does get through ahead of Devil, and I have to say, Ghost, this is one of the most bizarre battles I've ever seen in this division.
This is the most aggressive battle for P11 I've ever seen in my life. On lap 7 of a Grand Prix, I've no idea what's happening. Devil goes way off the track as I think he has wing damage after that contact. Perhaps it's not visible, but he does seem to have less downforce riding on board with him. But he seems absolutely hell-bent on taking that position away from Mattia Manga. He brakes late on the inside for turn 5 as well. Meanwhile, back to the front, a peaceful, serene scene,
Nick.
or maybe not, as Nick goes down the inside of both of the top 2. I don't think they were expecting that. Punished 4 being too peaceful as PLX loses 3 positions. Down to P7 goes the Aston Martin driver. I don't know what happened to him, but NASCAR's going to retake the lead, and Nico, after all those heroics from Nick, is back down to P3 again. As he's re-overtaken by both drivers he overtook a couple of corners ago. But those top 3 look a bit of a class above at the moment. Sam Van Marising struggling to live with them. 8.5 tenths is the gap. He's going to retake a little bit of that through the slower corners, but those top 3 certainly look a little bit faster. They have just a bit of an edge compared to everyone behind. There's Devil now behind Tropic, the Kick Sauber driving, making that overtaking. There's definitely damage to that McLaren as he loses the rear again through the second of the double left-handers, and Devil just has no pace at all. Into the pits he goes, unsurprisingly.
Yeah, the McLaren driver bows out of that set of tyres. I wonder if it will be out of the race altogether or whether he will elect to carry on. No, there's your answer. He does immediately retire from the race. We have a big development, though, at the front of the field. As Sam Van Marising, there was separation created for when PLX made that error on the previous lap, and PLX does immediately reclaim one of those possessions on Ruben with a lovely move down the inside of turn 5. At the front of the field, there's going to be more vulnerabilities for the race leader as NASCAR is going to get swamped by both Nico and Nick, and behind Mateusz leapfrogs in front of Sam Van Marising and manages to close the gap up towards the top 3 too. So here we go now on to the run towards turn number 9. Nick now slipstreaming OVR Nico, but NASCAR was the one who lost out on this occasion, and he's not going to be able to get that one back. So we've seen it time and time again throughout this season and throughout this entire game cycle. The vulnerability you have at the front of the field. We know NASCAR is super quick around this track. We've seen that in qualifying, we've seen it in the early laps of this race even, but you can see if the field is bunched up behind you, that run towards turn 6 especially can be lethal for a car that's out in front.
Yeah, it really can, and Napple is going to feel the Napple and Luca are going to feel the effects of the DRS as well as PLX. Oh no, that's Sam Van Marising into the pits. Excuse me. So early stop for the V-Carb driver, looking to get that undercut onto the hard tyres early. And I have to say, I am surprised to see so many drivers starting on the hards, because from everything I've seen on this track this year, the mediums just don't have enough pace in the second stint to catch back up at the end. But maybe these drivers are skilled enough to change that sort of pattern that I've seen this year. But yeah, Nico out the front at the moment though, but not for long as Nick draws alongside down towards turn 6, and it's another swap for the lead between the top 2. Peaceful once again between these 3, but Mateusz looking to get himself involved, and PLX as well won't be content sitting behind. He hasn't been. He's never been content sitting behind in a DRS train this season, and I don't see why today would be any different, as there goes Mateusz down the inside of NASCAR for turn 9. He has to back out of it in the end. Better line for the Alpine driver on the outside, but very, very close between all these drivers, and Nick having to back out on the run to 12 as well. Just about them both getting that stopped. There's a bit of a concertina through the hotel section. The double left-hander Nico just being pushed practically through those corners by IRT Nick, and now into the pits he goes. PLX looking to get his way through, and he's up to P2 after the pit stops. Early stops to respond to Sam Van Marising from all of those 3, but it's IRT Nick now who leads the race, but surely soon it will be EVE PLX.
I'm surprised to see pit stops so early off of the mediums and onto the hards. This is maybe a roundabout where you expect to see pit stops, but we've already had, of course, there's a couple of laps under safety car and even a little bit under VSC. We'll see how Sam Van Marising's undercut has worked out though, as he powers away, and look at this. He's going to jump clear. Look at this, as the 2 V-Carbs are going to be right at the front of the field, and Nico emerges right behind Sam Van Marising, and V-Carb looking very, very nice for that Constructors' Championship. PLX does indeed take the lead away from IRT Nick. He has sliced his way to the train, of course. Remember Silverstone, this is a man who can overtake. We've seen that time and time again throughout this season. He now leads them along, and it's up to him to try and extend as much as he can on those hard tyres and hope the mediums are quick enough at the end of the Grand Prix. Sam Van Marising has managed to create separation with Nico to the group behind him. NASCAR 1.7 seconds adrift with Mateusz and the train with him, and these guys at the front, well, they're looking at a Constructors' Championship, and right now they are in a prime position in the race. They will continue to just swap and change away at the front and will be perfectly content to do so. They have stolen a march in this race, and Sam Van Marising, brilliant undercut. Nico pulling clear of the rest of the pit stops too, and as it stands, well, these two look in a class of their own and well out in front. It's going to take some effort to bring them back.
Absolutely, although we have seen so far this race, Sam Van Marising not quite on the same level of race pace as Oviar Nico. So if they're this way round, I can see NASCAR catching back up to them, and as he has done in that final sector, he's caught them by half a second in that sector, Daka, and now 1.5 seconds is the gap. Nick and Ruben heading out the pits in the meantime. Nick is going to be well behind the two V-Carbs. He's going to be behind even NASCAR, but just in front of Mathieusz. He sandwiches the two, and Ruben gets ahead of the Mercedes driver as well out of nowhere into P10 for the Ferrari driver. He'll be delighted with that. He's been kind of up and down in form this season, Ruben has, so he'll be happy with where he is now. The two V-Carbs swapping again, but now Nick into P8, and that gap to the two V-Carbs, they're going to look to bridge it very, very quickly now. 1.0 seconds, it's 9/10 as they come through. The detection points here is 1.1 as they pass it, but they're very, very close. If they keep working together like they are in this train, then they will surely soon catch those V-Carbs and we'll have race on once again.
Nick's going to have to work hard. He doesn't have any battery to use throughout this last sector, but he is just a quarter of a second away and will get help from the pole setter as well to try and bring that gap back up. It's very similar to the situation we saw in the Mexican Grand Prix last week, and Nico was involved in that one as well. He's trading that lead with Sam Van Marising, but yeah, I do think Sam Van Marising, compared to the likes of Nico, Nick and NASCAR, who do look like the three fastest drivers in the race, he does seem to be more vulnerable, and Nick can work his way back across, especially with the fresher tyres on board. He's managed to put in a great final sector. He's still right on the edge of that 1 second to the thousands pretty much as they head out. It's up in front. Looks like the spin for Napple in the Ferrari heading out of turn number 5, and no front wing on that car either, and the safety car is brought out here. Oh my goodness, well, how much could this change the complexion of the race? Well, it will shrink the gap between Sam Van Marising and Nick, so that brings the rest of the drivers back into play. But what about the hard starters who have stayed out up to this point? PLX, who is way out in front in this race. The medium tyres aren't bad in terms of wear around here, I don't think. So EV PLX, I mean, it's going to be an earlier pit stop than he would have wanted ideally, but well, you do wonder what this could do for his race, because you could imagine he is going to keep that track possession on medium tyres. The question is, can he manage them?
I think in general the hards are the better tyre at this track. They last forever basically, and they have a decent amount of pace to them. We saw that already in the first stint. So I'm wondering, Dak, if Mattia Manga stays out and goes to the end on the hards. Obviously they're going to be significantly more aged than everyone else. No, he comes in, so there goes that theory. But it was a real option to him given how long those hards last. But no, he's going to be in for another set of the mediums, as are all of the top four. What about Nico? No, of course, they all stay out on the hard, so they're going to go to the end no matter what. But now it's going to be fresh mediums behind, but they're going to have to take those mediums a lot further than they would have hoped.
They are, and well, PLX is going to maintain that track possession. He comes out a couple of seconds ahead of the train. I imagine he is going to put a lot of stock into that opening lap out of the safety car restart to try and pull away, extend that lead to the likes of Nico and Sam Van Marising behind. Of course, if he doesn't break the DRS quickly, I'd imagine it could be a very long and very painful stint for EVE PLX, but if he can put in a huge safety car restart lap, and of course we've seen Nico is also exceptional at switching on those restarts. These two at the front, and for PLX's chances in this race, the first couple of laps after we get going in green flag are going to be so crucial if he can try and pull away. If he doesn't, then I think he's going to be at a major disadvantage versus that pack of drivers behind.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's got to pull that gap quickly, but we know how good those hards are in terms of pace. PLX, he's shown he is capable of some outstanding drives this season, but to break the DRS of Nico and everyone behind and stay there is going to take a mighty turn of pace from the Aston Martin driver. I don't really know if he's capable of that. we'll see. But if he can't do it, he's going to be very, very vulnerable towards the end of this race, because those mediums are, I mean, they're only going to be happy for about 10 laps. And by then, they'll start to deteriorate and they'll start to feel a lot more sensitive on the corner exits. So PLX has got a big, big job ahead of him here. That safety car timing, not very good for him at all. He would have hoped it would have been a few laps later than it was. So, yeah, he's got a lot on his hands. And those two V-cars behind. Obviously, he's got our new champion behind him as well, which is always its own brand of intimidation, as the two V-cars come together, actually just behind him under the safety car. That was a bit of a loss of concentration from our, well, perhaps soon to be constructors champions. That could have been a lot more disastrous than it was, Daka, especially if the game had given them a penalty for that. I've seen it before plenty of times, but no, they get away with it. So just a bit of a wake-up call perhaps, but for the two of them.
Yeah, that especially for Sam Van Marsing, I think that would have certainly got the heart rate up. That was very, very close to a disaster indeed. But they do run up together in line on the track and chasing down EVE PLX. We should get back to racing at the end of this lap, and that restart is going to be so critical. If PLX can get, catch Nico off guard and get 5-6 tenths of a second for free, that could set him up very nicely in that first lap where you don't have the DRS behind. That could be the possibility for him to make the difference. But OVR Nico, we know how sharp this man is on the safety car restarts. He is going to be very difficult to catch out. He is the champion of PSF3. The man behind him could share him in Constructors' glory by the end of this evening. But the top two in this race, they have won 5 out of the 8 races so far in this season. They are both utter class acts. And this next lap or two is going to be a real battle, a real test of both of them. Of course, PLX, if he does win, he can snatch himself up into second position in the standings, so there's a lot at stake as well for the Aston Martin driver, the PSF4 champion of last season, weaving away and looking to get this race back underway. This is roundabout where Nico went on the last lap. PLX waiting a little bit longer. Now he gets on the throttle pedal and away he goes. What kind of gap does he get? Nico's reacted decently. The gap just under 4 tenths of a second as they swing around the last couple of corners and get lap 15 kicked off. We are at half distance. RT Nick is looking left and right to the back of Sam Van Marsing inside of turn number 1. Nick forces his way to the inside, gets himself half a car length in front and through. What a move from RT Nick, and he breaks up that V-car formation, chasing after OVR Nico now. OVR Nico gets a lot of slipstream through that first sector. That keeps it very close, very tight to the rear wing of EVE PLX, and at the moment he looks every inch the equal of the Aston Martin driver. 4 tenths is the gap, and away they go. Down the back straight, pedals to the floor, and now NASCAR looks to be the next driver to challenge Sam Van Marsing towards turn 6. Looks to the inside. Sam Van Marsing breaks very late though in defence as they head through very nicely through that chicane. I'm not sure what Ghost noticed further down the field, but PLX leads away from Nico. Nick having to work very hard to stay with OVR Nico and PLX. These two shaping up as well, and they're putting a lot of pressure on the rest of the field.
It was actually Nick that I was reacting to, Daka, because he locked the rears in a big way into turn 6 and was sideways through the corner, but he managed to hold on to it, and he's still in that DRS range of Nico, crucially. But wow, what an overtake that was. I think that's got to be a contender for overtake of the season on the safety car restart, to be so brave as to send it like he did into turn 1 and make that stick. Incredible overtake from IRT Nick and the Williams, and well, he's reaped the benefits of it, but now he is over a second behind Nico, crucially, and I think that mistake at turn 6 is going to end up costing him further down the line here. 1.1 as they hit the detection point. No DRS for IRT Nick. They are going to get it again, presumably, if Sam Van Marsing can close down that gap again, but after overtaking. But yeah, he won't be happy, Nick, with that loss of DRS. As we see a Ferrari in the background, that's Ruben pulling to the inside of NASCAR. Surprising that was, and he's going for it on Sam Van Marising as well. Double overtake for Ruben on the straight here towards turn 6. Perhaps they go side by side through 7. He's still on the outside line and using that ERS, but he's going to run out the Ferrari, and he's going to have to slop in behind again as PLX retakes the lead from Nico on the run to turn 9, and that gap only getting bigger as the cars behind battle. Ruben again to the inside of the V-Cub driver. The Ferrari driver is here to battle on this season finale, but I think it's going to be Sam Van Marising who holds on into turn 12. They lock wheels as they go through, and it's Ruben on the inside again and the double left. What a move this could be! Incredible from OVR. Ruben into P4, and that's Mateusz trying to make his way through on NASCAR as well, thanks to the concertina effect, but he has to back out. And Ruben, incredible stuff from the Ferrari. We haven't seen too much from him this season. He's had his moments, he's been inconsistent overall, but that is one for the scrapbook for OVR Ruben for sure. Incredible stuff, and he's up to P4, and he's crucially still within that 1 second of IRT Nick as the top two streak away.
Man, that is going to go in this season's mixtape, I'm absolutely sure of it, as now he chases after IRT Nick, as meanwhile they still continue to serenely swap the lead at the head of the race. You can see the gap they pulled out. Look further back though, as Mateusz now, the next driver to attack. ET8 NASCAR squeezes himself onto the curb, but there's no way through in the end. He looks for traction on the exit to try and prolong that offensive. He's in that slipstream once again as they head up towards turn 9. Which way is he going to go? He looks towards the outside. He's going to have to be brave. He breaks very, very late. Does EV Mateusz, but I think he's going to run out of space there. NASCAR is going to see that one off in that battle further back, and look at that. They are still fighting down the field. Oh my goodness. There's a bizarre moment there with Swifty into the wall and losing his front wing as he was tangled up all sorts in that battle. There was ghosting going on. The Alpine does re-emerge, but now at the rear of the field, and well, for a PSF3 debutant, it has not been a night to remember for the Alpine driver. He now runs down in 15th position and is going to have to dive into that pit lane. Lap 18 of the Grand Prix with PLX leading Nico, and these two just pulling far, far clear. More than 2 seconds from IRT Nick. The pace of PLX on fresh mediums and the once again indomitable race pace of OVR Nico is stretching away from the rest of the pack, and well, PLX's tyres notwithstanding, it looks as though those two, it's going to be almost impossible to catch them.
Yeah, I think PLX is going to fade away towards the end of the race, and that might be the opportunity that this train behind needs to catch up, at least for P2. But OVR Nico looks unstoppable up there, as that's another debutant going round further back. NLR Luca back down to P14, and it's been overall a pretty dire day for the debutants, unfortunately. Swifty's gone out onto the soft tyres, hoping to get something from this race in the form of a fastest lap. But now it's Ruben right on the back of Nick going into turn 12. He backs out of it, but that Ferrari driver looking for a podium to finish off his season. And what a way to end it would be. He's already in the highlight reel, but Sam Van Marising just behind it as well, under pressure from the pole sitter ET8 NASCAR. He'll be disappointed to be where he is. He'll have been hoping to battle for the race win today, but it's just not panned out for him so far. As that gap to PLX still 2 seconds, although PLX I think already starting to fade away on those mediums. Look at that gap, 9/10 to Nico, and Nick is catching them as well. So I think Nico is going to be in a world of his own before long. PLX just does not have the grip. Those medium tyres not good enough, which is doubly why I'm so baffled that so many people started on the hards. But Ruben now goes into P3 on the straight. A simple DRS overtake, but he'll be delighted to be where he is. Nearly into the back of him goes IRT Nick. Just about avoids him in the end. But Sam Van Marising could have an opportunity open, but no, he's a little too far back. And PLX just about hanging on, but for how long, Daka?
He's got far less battery to use, and Nico, I think, has an opportunity to potentially break him in the next couple of laps. It's through this last sector where he's able to make the difference with that extra tyre grip as the mediums do fade. PLX is holding on for all of his worth, and if he does have battery to use, he may still be able to hang on in there, but every lap is going to be more difficult than the last, and EVE PLX is going to be tested to the absolute limit as they head on to lap 20 of the race. He's had a better lap this time, is further back. ET8 NASCAR, they are fighting in such unorthodox parts of the track. He was looking at Sam Van Mersing in the end, it didn't come off, but he is chasing after and trying to reclaim some of those positions he has of course lost as they head through the first sector up towards turn 5. Of course, a very possible overtaking opportunity, but Sam Van Mersing with a bit more battery to use is able to put distance between the two cars.
Nick
heading into the race as Nick getting very all over the shop, but he is up behind OVR Ruben now, and he will take away that fourth position. The dream will not be dead, although his closing speed is fairly poor, and in the end just manages to labour past the Ferrari. Sam Van Mersing gets almost into the back of the Ferrari, managed to avoid it, but that does compromise his exit, and NASCAR is going to be hunting again. But again, it's that battery disadvantage. NASCAR cannot pull it out, and he's got pressure from Mateusz and the Mercedes. He pulls to the inside and looks to go through, and indeed through he goes, up in a sixth position. And 88 NASCAR battery management really working against the pole setter as he drops down into position 7 on the road. It has not been his race after an incredible qualifying session. That said, he is still just a matter of car lengths away from P3, so anything can happen as they head towards lap 21. PLX does look more comfortable on the last couple of laps. Maybe he just went through a bit of a graining phase, had to try and adapt to the dropping grip. He's holding on fairly nicely and does have a bit more battery to use. Nico is not using much of his, so I think he's playing a waiting game and looking for another opportunity to try and drop. And PLX is doing a very good, tenacious job, but can he keep it up for the still 8 more laps of this race?
Yeah, I mean, 8 laps doesn't sound like much, but that is an eternity on those mediums. He is going to be really feeling it. They're only halfway through their life, if you look at the lap counter. So he's got a lot further to go, and he's losing more time again. I think he's got potentially, in theory, still got the pace to hold on with Nico, but it's just that added inconsistency from the lower grip is going to cost him as Lars van der Linden loses the rear, going side by side with, I think that was NASCAR for P7, and loses the position to Mattia Manga as a result. There's other medium tyres further down as well, of course. That is the Red Bull of Mattia Manga and also Matisse and Napple further down. So we'll see how they can do. They've got a train to hold on to, so they'll find it a little bit easier than PLX, but still, those mediums are going to be in pretty terrible shape by the end as they head through the double left-hander. The last few points-paying positions still very much up for grabs, but Mattia Manga struggling to hold on to the DRS already of the cars ahead. Meanwhile, 1.8 between Nick and PLX, and I have to wonder, Daka, if PLX can maybe force Nico into a defensive move or get close enough to try and go down the inside. It could invite the cars behind to have a go, and that might give PLX more of a chance, to be honest. If they catch up to both him and Nico, it's going to give others a sniff at the win, and then PLX will have perhaps more of an opportunity to hold on because he's really struggling at the moment. Again, that gap pulls up to 9/10, and he'll bring it back with the DRS, but I just don't see how many more laps he can hold on to that V-carb.
Well, every lap, as I said, is going to be more difficult than the last as he spins up the rear tyres. As round is NASCAR at the rear of the field now. Oh goodness, the pole setter, who's had a race where he's just slid through the order gradually, has now had it all go wrong, and what was looking like, I mean, he could have increased his point standing by orders of magnitude tonight. In the end, it looks as though he is not going to leave this race with any more than a point for pole position. How gutting for ET8 NASCAR in that Alpine after, well, stunning us all in that qualifying session. He now slides right down to the rear of the field. Further back, further in front I should say, they're still battling. Napple and Matisse, two medium runners, still going at it. out there on the track as they head onto the 23rd lap now, and PLX is still hanging in there. His race doesn't seem to really be with Nico at this point, as he may have picked up a warning there on the outside of turn 1. He tried his best to avoid it, and the gap is now stretching. Nico's trying to get rid of him now. He was using his overtake button. PLX managing to survive. Still, he is hanging on, as I said, tenaciously, keeping himself in contact, and he will be rewarded with the DRS, and that is what he's relying on. His race is really with those drivers behind, because if he does indeed get dropped from OVR Nico, he is going to be a meal for the drivers behind, as Ruben does move past Nick, and Nick under pressure from Sam Van Marsing too, and they all bunch up on the entry to turn 6. I hope there wasn't any damage there, but it was very close. There was contact certainly between Nick and Ruben. Nick immediately retaking that third position, striking back and snatching up that podium position in front of the Ferrari. Sam Van Marsing is trying anything he can to spot an opportunity. It hasn't quite come through just yet, but he is running so close to the Ferrari as they head down into turn number 12. We are now coming up with 6 laps to go in the Grand Prix. It is still Nico leading from EVE PLX. PLX is doing a fantastic job out there of sustaining the speed on these medium tyres. I thought he would have dropped sooner than this, especially with Nico's raw speed. Nico hasn't really went all in to drop PLX, but PLX has had a better lap, and you have to say he's doing a mega job of keeping those mediums alive.
I mean, absolutely. I can't really overstate how good this drive is from PLX. Those mediums must be feeling awful right now. He's still got another 6 laps to do on them, but goodness me, he is giving it everything he's got, and he's giving himself the best possible chance. But Nico trying his best to drop him still. But like you said, Dak, he's not going all out. He's still holding his ZRS just in case. And, well, it's allowing PLX to stick with him, but Nick is now closing in, and Nico's got to be careful here. It might be in his best interest to go all out to try and drop PLX on this lap or next, because Nick does seem to be closing in, as well as the cars behind. Sam Van Marsing just about holding on as Ruben goes to the outside of Nick and retakes that P3 as well. So 1.5 seconds. As soon as that gets within 1 second, suddenly this race is well and truly alive. It's still advantage Nico, but he's got to be careful here, and PLX is doing well to stay with him. I think Nico's pace may be starting to drop off a little bit, because Ruben catching a little bit more through the hotel section, now down to 1.4. He is so close. This race on a knife edge right now in these last 5 laps at the end of this one.
Ruben is going all out. He's using an overtake button out of every single corner, and that gap is coming down, and coming down rapidly. OVR Ruben, what a drive it has been from the Ferrari man to slice his way up the order. He's continued to advance in this race. He's up from 9th position on the grid, potentially to be battling it out for the race win, but he has still got a mountain to climb. Can he get up towards that top 2? PLX again just barely surviving, and we'll get DRS for 1 more lap. Less than 5 laps to go in the race. IRT Nick as well will try and close down on OVR Ruben. Ruben is going to defend, and this is not what either of them need as they go side by side into turn 6. Ruben tries to break early, I think. Nick gets through, but that was a costly swap of positions and a huge time loss for this entire train. Nick gets in front of Ruben. Ruben will slip through him back, and Sam Van Marsing will try to follow through in that V-carb. He doesn't know which way to go, though. It gets boxed in behind the Williams driver. Tucks in there, but Nick, that late move to the outside of turn 6 really cost both of these guys dear. He sits in behind now, but that was about half a second that they lost from that. And you know, DRS swaps are usually designed to try and move your way up towards cars in front, but that was one that worked firmly against these guys, and a big setback for that third place train.
Yeah, I think Ruben will be frustrated with that. He wouldn't have been expecting Nick. I think that move to the inside was more of a... It wasn't really a defensive move. It was more of a move to say, don't try overtaking. We're catching up. But Nick did not listen. He went for it. And, well... You know, nothing's changed except they're now further behind. Matisse retires in the pit lane, unfortunately. That is a unfortunate end to his season. But now this train continues to go on. PLX still holding on. 9/10 is the gap again, and still 13 lap-old medium tyres. He is hanging on by a thread. It's OVR Nico. These two behind swap again, this time a lot more amicably, but Lars van der Linden is in no mood for friendly manoeuvres, and he goes down the inside and spins himself out. I think he's only got himself to blame for that one. He plummets down to P9, and he'll be desperately disappointed and frustrated with how that one went. And now Nick is losing time to PLX. The DRS is working against him now because they didn't swap on that lap, probably largely thanks to that dive bomb from Lars van der Linden. I don't think he meant to do it. I think he just braked a little too late, but it's ended up being very costly for this train. Back up to 2.2 seconds. It was 1.3, 1.2 even a couple of laps ago. How quickly things can change. And now PLX still somehow hanging on, but it's been so important for him to do so with all of that happening now, putting the gap further up and putting him closer to that second place finish.
I tell you what, as well, he does still have plenty of battery to use, so I wouldn't say he's absolutely on his limit. If he was, then he'd be down at 10-20% battery, but he's got more than half left in the tank. He is barely hanging on lap after lap, but he's keeping himself in contention. It's going to be very difficult to challenge Nico, but he's still keeping him honest. Up at the front of this race, further back in the third place train, Ruben slices his way past Nick. Nick seems to really lack straight line speed. I think that's made a lot of these swaps very inefficient, because he's not able to properly clear Ruben down the straight. He gets right up behind him though, as Ruben had a scruffy exit heading out of turn at number 7, and Ruben does not want to give this up. He's used a lot of battery, but he's got pressure from all sides now. To the inside goes Nick, and Sam Van Mersing tries to follow through. In the end, there's no way through for the V-Carb. The Ferrari driver too was looking to the inside of the Williams. I think these guys have probably resigned themselves to a fight for third place as they run excruciatingly close heading into turn 12, with Ruben all over the road through that last sector. The gap now 3 seconds, and even if PLX were to drop now, I think he's still pretty safe. He's running, I tell you what, an awful lot closer on this lap, and if he can get past Nico or force him into any kind of move, we shall see. But he's suddenly got more battery than Nico, and he's running even closer. This is incredible for EVE PLX. He is still in this.
Absolutely extraordinary. I mean, we were extremely confident he would fall off towards the last part of this race, but no, he's only getting stronger, it seems, on those worn tyres. As Mathieusz looking to the inside of Sam Van Mersing, who defends and brakes late himself. Mathieusz loses the rear on the exit of turn 5, but they get away with it, and once again this train continuing to battle hard for these positions. It is of course the last race of the season, just 2 laps to go on this game in PSGL PSF3, but it's OVR Nico who leads, with this train battling for this last podium place. And how important is it going to be for these drivers? I mean, extremely important. There's nothing else that matters really now this season. Ruben to the inside of Nick. He backs out though. He wants to be in that crucial second place in the train going into the final lap. That's exactly where he's put himself right now. He's saving battery as well. He's doing a fantastic job in that Ferrari, and if he can get that podium, I think I know who driver of the day is. Personally, even with PLX's drive, Ruben has been outstanding from 9th on the grid. But look at this, PLX within a quarter of a second of Nico. The race leader is struggling, and PLX on 16 lap old mediums going
Nico's
into
all
the
over the
final
place.
lap, looking to take away the race win from our new championship, from our new champion of PSF3, 3/10, and like you said, Daku, he's all over the place, heading into turn 5 for the final time.
He has made error after error in the last lap or two, and PLX is right there with him. This would be extraordinary. They have won 5 races from 8 this season. It's looking like it's about to be 6 from 9 between these two, and they're going to go at it here on the run towards turn number 6. PLX is going to bait his time, or is he? He looks to the inside, later on the brakes than Nico. Nico brakes early to try and give himself DRS. PLX is sandbagging, but he's made an error, I think, because Nico is still going to get DRS on the run towards turn 9 and is going to cruise around the outside. Nico handles it with the absolute composure of a champion, and he gets the better of that exchange. And was that a potential race-winning opportunity that got away from EVE-PLX? Because OVR Nico is now in command, and if he can just nail every braking zone, every apex as they scrap it out behind for the podium places in that battle, you got Sam Van Marsing, Mattia Maga going at it, but OVR Nico in the end has seen off an incredible late charge from EVE-PLX. PLX slides her in the final corner, but Nico crosses the line. He holds on against an incredible assault from the Aston Martin, and he has 4 wins on the season, 3 in a row, and most importantly of all, he is your season 39 PSF3 champion. OVR Nico with a champion's drive to see that one off from PLX. Nick, a fantastic podium, and in what has been largely a season to forget for him, he gets his first podium of the season from Ruben. A great comeback drive to 4th. Next up, Mateusz rounds off his season, NP5 from Sam Van Marsing, NP6, and we can also say with a degree of certainty that the Constructors' Championship will also go the way of VCarb. Congratulations to them as well. Mattia Manga P7. Tropic in the end does get some good points on debut. P8, then Napple, Zvideg round out the points. Then after that is NASCAR, Laz van der Linden, Luca and Swifty will have their own moments over the line, spinning the cars out across the line. But that is F1 24 in the books. I tell you what though, Ghost, I do want to discuss that final lap showdown, and you have to say Nico managed that so perfectly. He willingly gave up the lead to PLX by braking very early, not dangerously, because PLX was already out of the slipstream, but he braked early and PLX tried to give it back up, and in the end only in vain, and it was all too easy for Nico to just cruise past with the DRS towards turn 9 and seal the deal for his 4th win of the season.
Yeah, PLX gave it his all to try and force Nico to re-overtake him before the detection point. But I think he realised he had to be careful because, they weren't exactly 20 seconds ahead of the train. It was still close for the rest of them to catch up. So if he sandbagged too much, then the rest of them would have been in it. And Nico played it absolutely spot on. What a drive from our new champion, and what a way to win the PSF3 Season 39. Incredible stuff from the Belgian, and I hope he returns for F1 25 to try and defend his title or have a go at PSF2. Who knows where he'll get placed, but incredible job from him, and wonderful race to finish off a wonderful season. And I'll tell you what, Daka, Ruben will be disappointed, because I was riding on board with him on the final lap there, and Nick got DRS from the lapped car of Swifty on the final lap for both DRS zones, so Ruben didn't have the chance to make a move. So yeah, he'll be frustrated to miss out on the podium, but still a stunning drive from the Ferrari driver in his last race of the game cycle, and he can still be very satisfied with a P4 finish. But yeah, he'll be a little disappointed that that chance went a-begging thanks to the lapped car with the DRS. But regardless, what a way to finish the season. It's been an absolute pleasure to commentate on with you for all these 9 weeks, Daka, as always. And many congratulations to the VCarb pair and to OVR Nico. It wasn't quite the championship showdown that we had hoped for, with Hajjaj crashing out at turn 2 on the first lap, but nonetheless, it was still a great season. And the championship finales that actually do live up to their expectations are a little few and far between. So deep down, there was a part of us that thought that might happen, but these things happen. Anything can happen in championship finales, like we said, and today it was just the wrong thing for the neutrals.
Yeah, I think generally in these title finals, for at least one of the drivers involved, it usually does go disastrously wrong. Both myself and Ghost have commentated on many a championship finale, and yeah, usually they do turn out something like what we did see there from Zinedine Hajjaj. Hugely gutting, of course, because he led the championship for the entire season, for at least the first 7 rounds, and just his season unravelling in the final 2 races, really through no fault of his own. So massively disappointing for, well, the driver who looked the dominant force throughout this season. He does hang on, however, to second place in the standings by virtue of Nico just edging out EV PLX in that fight for the win tonight. As PLX, if he had won the race, would have been level on points, and actually also having more wins, he would have in the end taken that second place on countback. But he does finish third in the standings, and I'm sure the many more calculations will be done to clear that up. Mateusz, I believe, will be 4th, Mattia Manga 5th, and I think Ruben will have moved up to 6th after this round. But that all remains to be cleared up and by Felix, our tier admin. So that should come out very, very soon. We can say for sure, though, Nico is our driver's champion. VCarb are our constructors' championships. Thoroughly deserved to both of those. And, well, Ghost, that is one more game cycle. I can't believe I'm saying that, finally in the books, and on to the next one, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. That is F124 done and dusted for PSGL this season, and this year, and I'm really looking forward to F125. I've seen some good things. I don't want to talk too much about it on stream, but I'm very excited, and I've seen a lot of other people are quite excited too. So yeah, it's I think it's going to be a great year for F1 League racing, and yeah, I hope at least almost all of these guys will join us for the new season in, well, probably a couple of months' time. So really looking forward to that. I hope I'm back in the box again with you, Daka, as well. But who knows where everyone will end up with a new game cycle. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to everyone who's watched as well and commented on all of the streams. It's been great to read and great to be a part of, and of course thank you to our drivers for putting on such a show every single week. I don't think we had a single dud race this season, so yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic, and I think that's pretty much all to say. Congratulations to the champions, and F125 just around the corner.
Roll it on, I say. And thank you also. I see some guys in the comment section. Thank you all very much for the kind words as well. You guys are what makes this worth doing. And I again, like Ghost, I have to make so many thank yous to everyone who tunes into these streams every week. Of course, thank you to PSGL for organising this. Thank you to GT Omega for sponsoring PSGL. And thank you to the drivers. Again, this has been one of the most endlessly entertaining seasons of league racing I have ever had the pleasure of commentating on. Just every race has been just awesome to behold. And again, we do wish that we maybe had a more thrilling conclusion to the championship. Maybe potentially even going to the final lap, but we can always dream. In the end, it didn't turn out that way, but I'll echo Ghost's words once more. Thank you very much to all the drivers, and congratulations to Nico and to Sam Van Marsing, of course, for bringing home the championships at the end of this season. Well, season 39, I think we can finally draw the curtain on. It's been an incredible season to cover, and like Ghost, I cannot wait to see what comes of the next game cycle. I know this has been a fairly polarizing game for a lot of people, but you can't deny the memories it has created over the last 9 months or so. And we look forward then to the next chapter of PSGL on F125. That will be season 40. Wow, what a number. So we look forward to that, but I think that is going to be just about it for PSF3 on F124. So, for myself and Ghost, it is goodbye for now. And until next time, until next game cycle, we'll see you later.